just grounding and getting ourselves here. I don't know what your day or your week has fully been like, but my week has been quite a roller coaster of ups, downs, and everything in between. And so I find that it's helpful no matter where we've been before here, where we have to go after here, to just spend some time at the beginning of class, like getting fully here. So find yourself in a place, whether that be seated or lying down, that you feel comfortable and that you feel like you can be in for the next couple minutes. And as you're making any adjustments that you would like, whether that's from lying to sitting or sitting to lying, go ahead and just begin to notice whatever is underneath you and all of the parts of your body that connect to that. And so if that means that you're sitting, maybe you begin to notice what do your sit bones and your legs feel like on the ground underneath you? And maybe also what do your feet feel like? If you find yourself feeling cold or warm, make any adjustments that you need, adding socks, changing them, things like that. But go ahead and just fidget around, wiggle around, notice what's underneath you. And when you feel comfortable, close your eyes and take a big inhale, maybe the biggest inhale you've taken all day, and see how much air you can take in and how expansive your lungs can feel. And once you've taken that in, just slowly hold on to it for just a moment, noticing the gift that you've given yourself, and then see how slowly you can let go of that exhale. And that can be through inhale through your nose, out through your mouth at first, or you can work up to that. And continue breathing deeply with your inhales, seeing if you can fill yourself up. Maybe you notice your side body expand, maybe your belly inflates, maybe you feel your upper back inflating. And then as you exhale, just continue to slowly exhale, not letting anything just escape, and allow yourself to just sink and ground and feel yourself sinking further into the mat and the ground underneath you. And with your eyes closed, I want you to imagine that you are sitting either at the base of or behind your favorite waterfall or a favorite waterfall that you have in your mind. And as you do this, just think of anything that you have experienced today, this week, or maybe the first thing that pops into your mind that feels like it's something weighing you down. And see if you can just let the waterfall wash that away from you. And whenever you lose track of your breath tonight, or you find yourself getting distracted, or maybe even over the next week when you find yourself feeling a little overwhelmed, imagine that in your mind you can come back to this place of sitting beneath or behind a waterfall and let the waterfall just wash that off of you. If you're sitting, maybe it washes off of your shoulders, off of your arms. And if you're lying down, maybe it just washes over you and washes any stress into the ground underneath you, off of your body. And take a few more breaths for about a minute on your own, breathing deeply, seeing if you can let something go and soften on each exhale. Not asking anything to change or adjust. Just see if you can let something soften and release. And I'll be quiet for about a minute or so, and then we'll move into our first pose together. Go ahead and taking one more deep breath. And on this deep breath, if you are sitting up, go ahead and just allow your chin to drop towards your chest and allow your head to drop down. And feel into the stretch along the back side of your neck. And if you're lying down, go ahead and just kind of trace your head, rocking it side to side, feeling the back of your skull lying on the mat, maybe giving it a little bit of a massage, just rolling side to side. But just notice the back side of your head, the back side of your neck, wherever you are. And then take an inhale breath and bring your head back to neutral. And we'll move into our first pose together, which will be toes pose today, which I personally have a love-hate relationship with, but I think it's one of the best poses in Yin to really remind ourselves what we mean by using our breath to sit with sensation. And so to get into this pose, from wherever you are, go ahead and shift yourself onto hands and knees into a tabletop position with your knees underneath your shoulders, or knees underneath your hips, hands underneath your shoulders. And we'll float through 3 cat-cows just to wake up our spine momentarily from sitting, whether we've been sitting all day or sitting just now. So to do that, you'll just drop your belly and lift your head looking up to the sky, flexing your spine in this way on an inhale. And then on an exhale, you'll drop your head and arch your spine, moving your upper back to the sky. And do that 2 more times on your own. Inhale, dropping your belly, looking up. And exhale, looking down, raising your spine and your upper back. And then coming back to neutral, bring your knees closer together to one another, not hips width distance anymore. Make sure that your toes are tucked under. And then we're just going to sit our hips back onto our heels. And you can leave your hands planted on the mat if you'd like to. This can be a pretty intense pose that definitely will remind you of all of the sensation on the bottom of your feet. And if this feels okay for you, go ahead and inch your hands closer to your body and maybe come up where you're just essentially sitting with your spine upright and you're sitting all the way back onto your heels. Make sure all 10 toes are tucked underneath you. And if you need to adjust this in any way, you're welcome to bring a block or a blanket between your sit bones and your heels to sit on that so that you're not sitting all the way back. Or bring your hands back out in front of you on your mat and lean forward, just leaving your toes tucked under. But wherever you are, come back to your breath. And taking deep breaths and imagining that we're breathing all the way down the back of our spine, all the way down to our feet, all the way down into the ground. And then as we exhale, maybe we're drawing an invisible line back up from the ground, up to the top of our head. Continuing that type of visualization, just drawing a length with our breath up and down our body. And focusing on that, or coming back to visualizing yourself at that waterfall. We'll just be here for a couple minutes to wake up our feet and remind ourselves that through these classes and through our breath, we can make it through things that feel uncomfortable, things that might feel impossible, if we just take it one breath at a time. And when we're about halfway through this first pose, come back to your breath if you lost it. And something that I have constantly reminded myself over the last year is that a deep breath is a deep breath. It might not be the deep breath I could take before, and it might not be the deep breath I'll take tomorrow. But in any moment, if I'm consciously and intentionally taking a deeper breath than the one before, I'm working towards calming myself, working through that anxiety, working through that migraine, and just focusing on my breath and my body and being here in this moment. And there's no way to know what the next moment will hold, but if I spend my time in this one, hopefully the next one can be easier. So if your hands aren't already out in front of you, go ahead and press your hands back onto the mat in front of you, leaving your toes tucked, and then walking them forwards a little bit with your toes still tucked, maybe stretching out your back a little bit, kind of in a child's pose, toes-like position, seeing what that feels like. Maybe drop your head between your arms, let it relax, let it release. And then walk your hands back in, a little closer to your body, press into them, lean forward, and untuck your toes when you're ready, being really gentle with them. And then flatten them on the mat and maybe do a little pitter patter just to wake them back up, get the blood flowing back around. And the next pose that we'll move into is going to be saddle pose. And so coming back to sit on your heels for just a moment, and then moving your heels out to the sides of your hips so that you can sit your bottom down between your heels. And so your knees are bent underneath you, you're sitting between your heels. And if you have a pillow or a bolster or something with you today, you might want to have it behind you for this. And so go ahead and grab that and just place it behind you on your mat or in your space. And if you experience knee pain, you might not want to do this pose exactly the way I'll cue it in. You might want to do one leg at a time. And so if you know that that's something you need, go ahead and just stretch one leg out in front of you. Or if you know that this pose is impossible, you are welcome to just take a Shavasana or a child's pose and meet us back up in the next pose. But to get into saddle pose with your sit bones between your heels, you go ahead and just place your hands on the mat behind you, palms down, and just walk your upper body back so that you can lie yourself back either onto the mat or onto the prop behind you. Or if that's not something that is accessible for you today, you're welcome to just have your hands pressed onto the mat behind you, or maybe coming down onto forearms. But wherever you're at, see if you can find yourself a place that you can just release and relax and let something go. And as you lie yourself back, if you find that your lower back feels pinched, just kind of shift and lift your hips up a little bit, tuck your tailbone under, and then just lie further back. And this pose can be a great hip opener for the front of our hips and also open our abs and our stomach muscles, which can definitely help when you're experiencing digestive issues of any kind. If you'd like to add some chest opening, you're definitely welcome to spread your arms out to the side or over your head. That can change the way that your breathing, deep breathing feels. So take what you need, make this as deep and opening as you'd like. Or just feel free to place your hands on your belly and notice what it's like to inhale and your belly inflate, and exhale, have it release. And we've got about another minute here on this pose. So if you'd like to change your arm position in any way, go ahead and do that if you'd like to try something different. And just take another deep inhale, seeing how full you feel like you can get. Maybe you want to try an open mouth exhale to let something else soften, let something else go. Whenever you're ready, if you lie to yourself all the way back, go ahead and just adjust your arms so that you can press your forearms and your elbows into the mat, being really mindful as you lift yourself back up. Just then press your palms and come all the way back up to an upright spine. And we're going to shift into a butterfly forward fold. So go ahead and shift your body so that you can bring your legs out from underneath you. And bring the soles of your feet together in front of you. You can have them as close or as far away from your body. If you have any pets joining you, they might also join in on these poses. And so with the soles of your feet together, we'll just take some neck stretches before we shift into a forward fold. And so go ahead and drop your right ear over to your right shoulder. Whew. Maybe things snap, crackle, or pop from your day, or tension that you're finally releasing from the week. And with your ear drops towards your shoulder, just add more of a neck stretch in here. Maybe you also want to lengthen out your left arm out to the side and see what it feels like to twist your arm so that your palm is up and then your palm is down. Decide which of those you feel like you might need and spend about 5 breaths here. If your right ear drops towards your right shoulder, maybe your left arm stretched out to the side. Noticing what it feels like with palm up and palm down. And these neck stretches are things that we can do at any time outside of a class to help not let tension build up so much, or just take a break, take a moment. Take one more breath on this side. And then on an inhale, bring your head back up to neutral. And then drop your left ear towards your left shoulder, stretching out your right arm to the side as you'd like, shifting palm up towards the ceiling and down towards the mat, seeing what that does for the side of your neck. Maybe you want to even sync this to your breath where you inhale and twist your palm down, and exhale and twist it up to the ceiling. Do this 3 more times on your own. And then bring your hands back to neutral. And on an inhale breath, bring your head back up to neutral. Take just a moment, take a full round of breath, inhale and exhale here in a neutral spine, neutral neck. Maybe eyes are closed and you're gazing inward. And then take an inhale breath and look up towards the ceiling, opening the front of your neck, maybe a little bit of a chest opener. And then on an exhale breath, we're just going to fold over our legs. And so you can decide if you'd like to have your feet closer to your body or farther away, adjusting as you need on the way down. Just begin to drape your upper body over your feet, over your legs, walking your hands out in front of you and seeing where it feels like your edge point of today is. Again and again, we're not trying to push ourselves to a 10 out of a 10. If anything, we're maybe at a 7, but today maybe you're at a 4. Take what you need. Feel this hip opener. Feel this opening across your back. And see if you can drop your head between your arms like we would in child's pose. And just sit in this butterfly forward fold for the next couple minutes. And see what you can soften with your exhales and what you can let go of, what you're holding on to, what the waterfall can wash off of you. And on your next breath, I encourage you to just think back to what it is this week that you feel like held you back from where you wanted to be, and see if you can just let that go. Let it be elsewhere at this moment, at this time. And thank yourself and be proud of yourself for making it to this class today, for taking this hour of time to focus on you, focus on your healing, and take an inhale breath and just fill yourself up with gratitude for that choice, that dedication to your healing. An open mouth exhale, just let anything that got in the way of that go. And remember that you did this for yourself and you made it here. Taking one more breath in this butterfly forward fold. And then wherever your hands are, just plant them on the mat, press them into the floor and the ground. Walk yourself back up to an upright spine. Again, coming up as slowly as you need to, slowly as you can, being mindful as we move forward, backwards, and all around to just keep our balance, keep our breath. We're just going to come into a couple wide-legged folds over each leg. So from this position, go ahead and just stretch your legs out at 45-degree angles from your body. Adjust yourself so that you can sit comfortably. If you would need to add a blanket underneath yourself, do that. And then we're just going to start by taking an inhale breath and then twisting our upper body over so that our chest is facing towards our left foot. Taking an exhale breath, settling in there. Taking another inhale breath, planting our hands on either side of our left leg, and then folding down over our left knee. Maybe you have a block or something on one side of your leg to rest your forearm on. And then maybe from there you bend your elbow and place your hand into a fist, and the fist grabs the left side of your face and just lets it rest there so that you can fold forward. Maybe your elbow can come all the way down to the mat today, and then you can rest your hand on your fist as well. But be mindful of what you need. Don't push yourself past where you need today in the hopes of where you think that you should be or where you know that you could have been. Just be where you are right now. And feel the stretch along the back side of your right back, along the side body, also along the insides of your legs, maybe the back of your left leg as well. See what it does if you'd like to point and flex your foot. If that feels like a different sensation that you're looking for today. Just let yourself be draped over your left knee. And if on an exhale, you can drape your chest a little bit closer to that knee. You can let gravity sink you a little bit deeper. And if not, just rest where you are. Any version of the pose is the pose in yin practice. Taking 2 more breaths on this side, letting anything else relax and just soften on the exhale. And take one more inhale breath. And on the exhale breath, place your hands on each side of your left leg. Again, pressing them down, walking yourself slowly back up to an upright spine, being really careful and mindful as we come back up and bring our spine back up. Before we shift to the other side, we'll just take one breath here in the middle, inhaling, looking up to the ceiling to open up your throat again if that felt great for you. And exhale, coming back to a neutral spine. And if you used a block on the left side and you want to move it over to the right side, make that adjustment. And then on an inhale breath, we'll twist our chest and our upper body over our right knee. And then on an exhale, placing our hands on either side of our leg, walking ourselves down, being mindful of any props or pets, adjusting as needed. And in two-sided poses, I say in each of our classes, it's important to remember that our bodies may look symmetrical, but they aren't. So being mindful to not judge yourself if you notice that you're able to stretch more on one side than the other. Just taking note of that and wondering to yourself if there's anything you need to adjust in the way that you sit, in the way that you walk, and in the way that you move throughout your day to bring more balance into things. Ease tension on one side if you're noticing one side has a lot more. But don't judge the way that you've made it through your day. Whatever you did got you to here. And tomorrow you can make adjustments if you'd like to be somewhere else. Or maybe your body just adjusts in different ways. If you drive a lot, you might notice a lot more tension on one side of your body than the other. But if this is causing problems for you, see what adjustments you can make those adjustments, and go from there. Coming back to your breath, letting your exhale, see if anything else can soften. See if you can sink a little bit deeper. Flexing and pointing your toe if that feels like something you would like to adjust. Taking 5 more breaths on this side. Coming back to your breath if you've lost it. Counting the inhales and the exhales. Inhaling again with that sense of gratitude for yourself, for taking time to continue your own journey towards having more rest, more relaxation. more calm for your nervous system. And exhale, letting anything go that you don't need to hold on to, softening places in your body that are holding tension, or imagining that they can soften if they don't feel like they're ready to yet. And taking your final breath, inhale, filling up, and exhale, place your hands back on either side of your right leg, press them into the mat, and walk yourself back up to a neutral spine. And just adjusting your legs, bending both of your knees slowly, bringing them in, placing your feet flat on the mat, and just placing your hands behind you, similar to what we did briefly in saddle pose, and just dropping your knees side to side, windshield wipering them, with your knees bent, getting some movement back into our hips, getting the blood flowing back in a different way than it has been with our legs stretched out. And if you'd like to stay on one side for a moment, because that feels good to a hip, do that. Just do this 2 or 3 more times, dropping your knees side to side, moving them around. And then we're just going to do another upright pose where we'll lie ourselves back before we move into some more down facing poses, focusing internal. So we're going to move into fish pose. And so if you have blocks with you, go ahead and grab them. We'll place them behind us. And so we'll place one block at the top of our mat to catch our head, and one block about 6 inches or so down from there for our shoulder blades. If you don't have blocks, you can place a pillow just behind you. It'll feel a little bit different, but similar effect of chest opening. And then keeping your feet where they are. There'll be options to adjust them as we get into this. Again, we'll press our hands on either side of our hips, walk them back a little bit, adjusting things as you need to on the way down. But our ultimate goal is to have that first block come right at where our shoulder blades are, so that's essentially right behind our heart and right on our back. And then the second block is there to catch your head. And you can adjust the height of these to what makes sense to you. If this is absolutely too much, just lie on your back and curl your knees into your chest today. Maybe rock side to side. Here for a couple minutes. I find that this pose, when I'm having a hard time taking a deep breath, helps me do that. But at first, it's incredibly sensational, and I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to be in it. And so if that's what you're feeling today, just wiggle around, adjust the blocks as you need to, maybe making sure that it's not uncomfortable in a negative, in a painful way, but it definitely allows your chest to open a little bit, allows your shoulders to just drop over the side. And you can bring your arms into whatever position is comfortable, stretched out to the side. I like to bend my elbows and place my palms on my shoulders, so I kind of have little wings. My arms are kind of braced against the mat. And then with your legs, you can leave your feet planted, knees up to the ceiling. You can stretch your legs out, or you can come back into butterfly legs with your soles of your feet together, whatever feels the most comfortable for you in your lower back. And take another inhale breath, filling up, noticing what it feels like in your chest as you inhale with your chest raised like this. And then on an exhale, just let yourself sink into everything that's supporting you. Allow your breath to support you and guide you. Just settle into the supported fish pose. You can also bring your arms up over your head, stretching them straight out to get a different sensation in your shoulders and the uppermost part of your back. And as you take deep breaths in this pose, you might notice on an inhale that it feels as if the block behind your shoulders is pressing into your back. And imagine that that pressing in can open up and release anything that's holding on in your upper back and your shoulders. And then as you exhale, you can just allow it to support you. So maybe it's like massaging your spine, massaging your back, and then releasing. And taking one final breath on this side. And then similar to saddle pose, pressing your elbows into the mat, tucking your chin to your chest, being mindful with your head, lifting up so that you can bring the blocks out from underneath you, bringing your feet back onto the mat with your knees pointed up to the ceiling. And just lying on your back here for just a moment, curling your knees into your chest, giving yourself a hug, rocking side to side, letting your spine come back to completely neutral. We're going to come into a laying spinal twist before we shift into face down poses. And so there's a couple options for this. I like to do this with eagle legs with my legs crossed. You're welcome to not try that and just have your knees stacked, but go ahead and plant your feet back on the mat. We're going to drop our knees to the left side first. And so to cross your legs, you'll just lift up your right leg, cross it over your left. I like to press my foot into the mat and shift my hips a little bit to the right to give myself more room. Take an inhale breath. And then on an exhale, just allow your knees to fall over to the left side of your mat, trying to keep both shoulders on the mat and your chest pointed up towards the ceiling as best as you can. And you should feel a nice twisting sensation across your back and a nice opening across your right side body. If your knees are stacked, you can bring them in closer to you and closer to your chest or put them farther away. Notice where that changes the sensation in your back and the twist. If your legs are crossed, maybe you need to make some adjustments or put something underneath your knees to catch them so that you can just release. But make any final adjustments and then take a big inhale breath, holding that for just a moment, and just let it go and rest here for a couple minutes. And if you were sitting at the beginning of class instead of lying down, and you'd like to try that sensation of rolling your head side to side while lying flat on the mat, this can be a great pose to do that in. Just let your neck release. Maybe have some pressure on the back of your head. Maybe you want to sync this to your breath. Inhale, looking to one side, and exhale, looking to the other for a few breaths. To continue to not hold or grip anything in our neck or our jaw or our shoulders. And on your next breath, if you had your legs crossed, go ahead and uncross them and leave them stacked on the left side for a breath. And then inhale, bring your knees back up towards the sky, towards the center. Bring your soles of your feet out to the edges of your mat and let your knees knock in together. Bring your hands to your belly, or maybe one hand to your belly, one hand to your heart. And take 3 breaths in this neutral position before we shift to the other side. Inhale, noticing your belly rise as it fills up. And exhale, noticing it fall and soften as you let something go. 2 more times on your own. And then bringing your feet back together next to one another. We're going to drop our knees over to the right hand side this time. So if you'd like to cross your legs, you'll just press your right foot into the mat. Lift up your left leg, cross it over. Cross your foot into the mat and shift your hips a little bit to the left so that you can drop both knees over to the right side of your mat this time. Adding anything underneath your knees to catch them if you need to. Placing your hands wherever feels comfortable for you. Out to the side, up above your head, or somewhere on your body. But trying to keep both shoulders closer to the mat, but at least your chest pointed up towards the ceiling. Noticing where, when you take a deep breath, it feels like the breath is having a hard time getting to. And seeing if on each breath you can just allow it to get a little bit farther into that space. Scrape out any tension, fill up that spot that feels like it's hard to get to. And then on an exhale, maybe that spot can soften a little bit more. Maybe you're noticing that this twist on this side feels a little bit more constrictive for your breath. It's okay. We're definitely constricting some parts of our body as we make this twist. We're also opening our chest. Take 2 more breaths on this side. On your next inhale, Uncross your legs if you had them crossed. Let your knees stay stacked. And then on an inhale breath, bring your knees back up to center, pointing them up to the sky. Coming back to that neutral spine with our knees out to the edge of our mat, dropping in together. Or maybe this time you want to come back to that windshield wiper, but maybe dropping one knee into the middle and then the other. Just a little bit. Letting our spine come back to neutral, letting both sides feel the effects of the pose that we were just in. And then curl your knees into your chest. And roll your spine forwards and backwards a couple times so that you can come up into a seat for just a moment and shift over onto hands and knees. And we're just going to come into pigeon pose as our last pose before we come into Shavasana. And we won't be here as long as we traditionally are, but pigeon pose is a great pose to just allow anything in our hips to settle. And so from this tabletop position, we'll start with our right leg forward first. And so pressing both hands into the mat, lifting up your right knee and shifting it towards your right wrist, shifting that ankle towards your left wrist. Doesn't need to be parallel to the top of the mat, but if you would like to open your leg that far, it can definitely add more of a hip sensation. And then tucking your left toe, shifting your left leg back, keeping your knee on the mat, untucking that toe and letting that leg stretch out behind you. And then take an inhale breath, stretching out your spine, maybe looking up to the ceiling again. And then on an exhale, allow your upper body to drape over your front knee, your right knee, come down onto forearms, down onto palms. And drop your head down and let it release if you'd like. Or just keep your forearms planted in the mat, similar to a Sphinx pose, and let your heart drop between your shoulder blades. We'll be here for about 1.5 minutes on this side. If you're ever in pigeon and your back knee feels uncomfortable, feel free to just retuck your toes. That'll adjust the way in which your knee is lying on the mat and can create some comfort so that you can focus on the hip opener. Take another breath on this side. Exhale, drop your chest a little bit closer to the mat. And go ahead and press your palms into the mat. Begin to lift back up. Press your hands to the side, tuck your back toe under. Bring that foot in, and then lift up that right leg and come back to tabletop for just a moment. Maybe wag your hips side to side, or take a cat-cow if you need to. And then lifting up our left knee this time, bringing it towards our left wrist, ankle towards our right wrist. Tucking your back right toe, shifting that leg back in space, untucking it when you're ready. And then take a breath and slowly exhale and lower yourself down over your left knee as it's forward this time. And if you kept your head up in that Sphinx-like position, maybe try letting it go and drape this time on this side. Take one more breath and pigeon pose with your left leg forward. Exhale, let your chest drop a little bit farther, let your back expand a little bit more. And then press your palms into the mat, coming back up. Tuck your back toe under and bring your knee back in. Come back to tabletop for just a moment. Wag your tail side to side or take a cat-cow as you need. We're just going to take child's pose as our shavasana for tonight. If that's not something of interest to you, you're welcome to come into a traditional shavasana lying on your back. But in the interest of spending time internally reflecting, resting from our week, we'll just take our knees wide, our hands out in front of us, and sink our hips back towards our heels, draping our upper body between our knees, chest close to the mat. Coming into child's pose with your arms stretched out, knees wide, big toes together. Just allow yourself to fully release and rest. If you'd like to bring a bolster underneath your chest and wrap your arms around it and allow that to just support you, feel free to grab that. We'll be here for about 3 minutes. I'll let us know when it's time to come back together and take a final breath together. And this time, noticing your forehead planted down onto the mat and maybe roll it side to side, seeing what it feels like to roll out any tension between your brows, similar to how we rolled out the tension on the back of our head when we were lying face up. And if you enjoyed the waterfall visualization that we tried at the beginning, maybe now you want to imagine yourself back behind that waterfall, back underneath that waterfall. See if there's anything else that you'd like to just let it wash away down your back, off your spine, into the ground. Maybe out your arms through your fingertips. Just release, let it go. Let yourself be heavy. And if you had your hands in any other position other than stretched out, go and stretch them back out in front of you. Press them into the mat. And begin to come back up to a tabletop position, bringing your hips back up. And then just shift into a comfortable seat of your choice. Maybe you want to sit back on your heels. Maybe you want to come to sit cross-legged. Whatever that looks like for you, just adjust and come back to a position where you feel comfortable with your spine up tall. And we'll just take one final breath together to seal in this practice, seal in this time that we've taken for ourselves. Just bring your hands somewhere that feels comfortable for you. Maybe one on top of your heart, one on your belly, or hands together at heart center. And take an inhale, filling up with anything else that you need. And slowly open mouth exhale. Thanks for taking this time for yourself. Thanks for spending this time with me. Hope this was helpful and that you enjoy the rest of your week.